Hi everyone, meteorologist Carly Smith joining you live. It is going to be another hot and humid weather pattern out there. That's going to be your big weather impact for the week ahead. Additionally, we are looking at Debby, which made landfall as a hurricane, now weakened to a tropical storm. Local waves are going to pick up on Tuesday here. A rip current risk is going to go up as well. Then finally, the last key point of this weather update is there is a new area of development in the Caribbean, and we will be tracking that out and keeping a close eye on that activity. Hello everyone, meteorologist Carly Smith here. Thank you for joining this live update. We are going to get right on in started with our weather graphics and everything you need to know. So we're going to start with Debby, right? So Debby did make landfall as a Category 1 hurricane. These are actually the same numbers, wind at 80 miles per hour, pressure 979 millibars. Those are the same numbers that we saw with Beryl when it made landfall near Matagorda. It was 7 a.m. and landfall was near Steinhatchee, Florida, which is also near Cross City, Horseshoe Beach, and it is going to track across the Sunshine State in impact areas across Georgia and South Carolina and several other eastern coastal locations across the Atlantic as it does move slowly over the coming days. So that's going to be a problem with Debby as it continues on. So here's the latest satellite imagery. Wind at 70 miles per hour, gust at 85 miles per hour, pressure up to 983 millibars now. So it is weakening, obviously, moving north-northeast at 8 miles per hour. Good morning there, Corky and Norma. Thank you for watching. Our update is coming out from 10 a.m. So this is the latest information on Debby. It is now 35 miles west of Lake City, Florida. Here's the latest look at the forecast cone. This is the problem between tomorrow morning, so Tuesday at 8 a.m. and Thursday at 8 a.m. So that is going to be at least a 48-hour period. It's going to be hanging out right there near Savannah, Georgia, and Charleston, South Carolina. That is going to potentially provide some very, very dangerous, historical type of rainfall. So on top of that, there's also going to be a little bit of storm surge that will be possible. We're talking at least 1 to 3 feet, maybe higher, but right now at tropical storm strength, expecting on the lower end of the storm surge. But you factor in storm surge with this rainfall, flooding across the coast, the Atlantic, especially the southeast Atlantic coast, north of Jacksonville, is going to be a big impact from the storm. High pressure is what's going to keep Texas dry. So now we're into the coastal bend forecast, and it is looking hot and dry. And by dry, our air temperature is going to be fairly hot. And our heat index value is still also hot, but our humidity is going to be a tad lower. And that's one of the reasons why our air temperature may reach the triple digits before this week is all said and done. So make sure we're staying hydrated, y'all. We are watching the area in the Caribbean, so now we've gotten into that new development, right? So you can see Debby on this map. You also see that 30% there. That is from a tropical wave that is now crossing over some of the Antilles of the Caribbean. It's going to cross over, track across the Caribbean Sea. Right now it's interacting with some Saharan dust, likely going to keep it on the weaker side. Development not expected till it gets on the western side of the Caribbean and then potentially even into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. But there is a lot of uncertainty still in the forecast once it does inch closer to Central America. There's several possible outcomes, and a lot of that has to do with the weather pattern in the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere and then the actual strength of the storm. And the forecasting is almost always pretty poor 7 days out regardless. But when you don't have an organized center of a tropical system, the model data is still very uncertain at initiation, right? So some models have the center a little further north, a little further south. That X marks the spot where the National Hurricane Center last decided was closest to what a potential center would be, but it's so disorganized at this point. That's what makes the forecasting so difficult when it's just in this stage of possible development, right? So the model that I've been using does show the high pressure over Texas. And as long as this high pressure, now there is a weakening trend with another trough that tries to develop and tap into Debby a little bit there across the Northeast over the weekend. But still, that high is going to grow and rebuild. And the strength, as long as this high looks this strong over the weekend, any chance of development is going to stay far south of Texas. In this scenario, you know that forecast can change though, so we'll have to keep an eye on it. But at this point, not worrying, but obviously watching anytime there's a chance of a storm entering the Gulf of Mexico. Now, when it comes to our waves, you can see this is Debby's wake, essentially, or ripple effect that is going to be taking place. So the arrows, the wind arrows are circling over where the center of Debby is expected to be throughout this afternoon. You can see in the East Coast, wave action is starting to pick up. You get the yellow showing up. That's where we were at earlier today in the Gulf of Mexico. Now, Texas, we're flat. Green is basically flat conditions. That's how it's been most of the weekend with our lack of wind. But notice how there's the ripple effect. So we see some swell action as we head into Tuesday. That's going to increase our wave heights. Now, we're not looking at extreme surf levels here. We're talking maybe 2, 3, possibly a few 4-foot swells. That would be nice. The periods get longer though. So the closer we are to a 10-second period, the greater rip current risk goes up. So rip currents will be a concern along our Texas coastline as we head into Tuesday and even Wednesday. But by Thursday, we start to see our action returning to normal, pretty calm conditions expected. Now notice this is now Saturday. We're starting to see the potential for that system more so the blue teal colors, right, that are starting to show up near the Yucatan Peninsula there on the bottom of the screen. That is the potential system that could make its way into the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. So we're going to have to be keeping an eye on that. That could cause a little bit of an uptick, but this is where the model still has disagreement. That scenario, don't take that. That's way too far out to get excited over. Please do not do that. No screenshots, y'all, but in your 7-day forecast, what you're going to see is 96 for your high today, lots of sunshine, high pressure holding dominant, very little rain, a sea breeze, rogue sea breeze storm, possible. The stronger the high is, the less likely that's going to be. However, air temperature gets hotter under this high pressure. Our sea surface temperatures have been running 90, right? So the bigger difference we have between the land and the sea, the more likely we're going to have some sea breeze action. So that's something to keep in mind. But otherwise, mostly we're just tracking heat and sunshine this week. So everyone enjoy. We'll keep an eye on that tropical wave. But for now, have a wonderful week, y'all. I'm meteorologist Carly Smith, and I am signing off.